Hello everyone and welcome to another tutorial on web programming in HTML and JavaScript. We are going to look at a question that came in the Cambridge A-level exam in March 2023. Task 4. OpenJS task.html in both a browser and in a text editor. Amend the click to total the sales button code and add JavaScript so that when the button is clicked, the total sales recorded for each time period are displayed in the cells as shown. So what we have here is part of a web application which allows us to input sales figures for the morning and afternoon. The morning, afternoon, and total sales figures are displayed by clicking on the Click to Total the Sales button. Next, we are to amend the selection code and add JavaScript so that when a new day is selected, the data in all the cells is cleared. So we have an insert of where we can drop down the days, and depending on each day you select, it clears the data from the cells. Next, we have to save the web page as sales form underscore followed by a center number and candidate number. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'll be using Notepad++ to answer this question. So let's go ahead and open the source file we've been provided with. Now, since we will be adding a script, let's locate the bottom part of the body and add our script tag. So I'm doing that on line 98. For our button to work, we also need to add an on-click condition. An on-click event calls a function when a button is clicked. And in the syntax below, we realize that the on-click event is added in the button tag with a declared function. So let's go ahead and add our on-click condition. Just after the width of the button is terminated, I place my cursor there, type on-click, equal sign, total. Now we already have total as an ID here, so we can't use that. So I'm going to make it totals and bring my brackets. Now we go into the script tag and start by typing our function. Followed by opening and closing curly brackets. And now let's go ahead and declare a variable for morning. And we are going to do the summation by adding the IDs of each input dot the value. So the ID for the first input is AM8. Followed by AM9. AM10. 11, and then we have PM 12. Let's scroll up and check from the HTML to verify. Yes. So for the morning summations, we have AM 8, AM 9, AM 10, AM 11, and PM 12. Let's add a variable for afternoon. And the last thing we need to declare is the totals. That's morning plus afternoon. And let's not forget at all times to terminate each line with a semicolon. Now the question you might ask yourselves is, what does the dot value do? Now the dot value property returns the value entered into an HTML input element, such as a text box. In the syntax example provided below, the variable value will hold the value the user entered into the input field. So in our case, if I should make a quick reference, we are referring to this value you see here. So this ID, AM8 dot this value. Now before we continue, let's go ahead and save our file as required. So you go to File, Save As, and then we enter the file name. We need to read the summations we made in the variables provided. We will use the document.getElementById method to retrieve and display the information in the HTML output field. Now before we go ahead and type that, let's fix this little error here. Totals is supposed to be total. And in the button tag, leave a space just before onClick. Now we go ahead and type in our document.getElementById. The ID we refer to here is AM total because the output field ID indicates AM total. I'm going to repeat the process for PM total and the actual total. Now let's refer to our browser. Let's open it in our browser and see how it worked. So I'm just going to enter some random figures. Now we realize that the figures are out of place. So let's go back to our code and do some conversion. Now let's multiply each value by 1. By multiplying each value by 1, the actual value inputted in the text box is what is computed. Now let's go back to our browser and re-enter the figures. The total figures are now correctly displayed. We now need to be able to clear our web form when we select any of these days. That will enable us to make subsequent entries for each day. Now let's declare a function in the select tag of the HTML and create null values for all the variables. So let's head up to the select tag and type in our function. Here, space, so on change is equal to clear form So our function name is clear form. Now we head down to where we have our scripts and type in our function here. Now we go ahead and create null values for all the variables. We will now type in window.location.reload. The location.reload method reloads the current document. It works the same as the reload button in your browser. Earlier on, we also had a look at the onChange in the select tag. It calls a function when a user changes the selected option of a select element. Now let's save our work and reload the web page in our browser. Once again, I'm going to enter some random figures. And let's change the date or the day by selecting Tuesday. You realize that it clears the table and refreshes the page. However, the day we selected does not remain Tuesday. So let's see how we can get that fixed. Now I'm going to comment out what we have placed in the clear form function. And we are going to declare a variable called selected value. We then refer to it using the document.getElementById in which this case the ID is the ID we see in the select tag. Day. Dot value. So let me separate this from the one we did at the top and add a comment. So this is to get the selected value. As in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. Now, after we've selected the value, we need to store it locally. So we use the local storage.setItem method to do that. So I'll leave a space and add another comment. And now I type out my method. The local storage method allows JavaScript sites and apps to save key value pairs in a web browser with no expiration date. Next, we reload the page and close the function. We're going to create another function to retrieve the selected value from the local storage and set the selection. Let's name the function restore selection. And now let's get the saved selected value from local storage. So we are going to declare the variable selected value to get the item. Next, we set the selection in the drop-down menu. We will use document.getElementById to do that. And our ID is day. Lastly, we call the function to restore the selection when the page loads. So let me add a last comment for that as well. So let's save our work and go back to the browser. Once again, I'm going to enter some random figures. Click to total the sales. Then change the date. And then it all goes away. And then our date we changed remains. I'm going to enter figures for this day. Click to total the sales. Change the date to say Thursday. And it worked. We have come to the end of another tutorial. Aside being able to answer the question, I hope you learned some new tips and tricks in JavaScript. If you have any questions and suggestions, you can leave them in the comment section and I'll do my best to respond. If you enjoyed this tutorial, you can like and share this video. Until we meet in the next one, it's bye.